Welcome to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio with your host, motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Be sure to check out Greg at www.gregdwyer.com. That's www.gregdwyer.com. Now on to our show. Take it away, Greg.
Hi, everyone. It's Greg Dwyer. It is January 11th, 2025. So I always ask this question during the New Year's, and I just have to ask you, how are you doing? How are you doing on your New Year's Eve resolutions? I'm thinking here, and you probably know what I'm thinking, most people don't even set them. They don't set New Year's resolutions because, well, maybe in the past they got really focused and they got distracted and they just gave it up. The other day I was hearing a story about my friend. He says, you can go to the gym on January 1st or 2nd and there's no room in the parking lot. You can't get in. But a week later, a month later, it's completely open and there's no one there. So what happens? People get really excited if they set New Year's resolutions, but many people fall off the wagon or they just quit and they just give it up, or they don't even set New Year's Eve resolutions. So this question really has been on my mind for 2 decades, really, seriously. Because when I started in sales, I looked at a sales team and I said, I don't get it. Like, how is it that some people are really, truly successful and other people, they have the same information, they have the same product, but they're not? Like, what's the difference? It can't be the commission plan. It can't be the product. It can't be the marketing. It's got to be them. And that's the only thing I had to go on. And I spent many, many years taking courses, reading books, going to seminars, to really drill down and figure this out. And then what I've done is I put this in a package called The Magic of Focus. I do this hour workshop for corporations and companies and different groups, and I talk about what I have found. What I found is this. Number one, the conscious mind is easily distracted. So someone can say, oh yeah, I want to make more money, or I want to lose weight, or I want to be in a great relationship. And that's fine on December 31st. And then when the clock strikes 12 and the next day happens, you kind of like forget it and it's not specific. So you're not going to look at it again until 12 months later, which is really not going to help, right? So that's why most people fail. They're not specific. And the other thing is, the conscious mind is easily distracted. Something else comes into their mind, or they're distracted by something else. And, oh, well, this is more important. What do they call that? The red ball syndrome, the shiny object syndrome. If I just do this, or I buy this, or I go here, then my life will be happier. People think, oh, if I buy this course, I'll be able to get this thing done, right? So that's the problem. The major problem here is that the conscious mind is easily distracted, which we all know, especially in our world today with cell phones and media and, communication coming at us. There's just too much information. Number two, I learned, is that the unconscious mind is stuck with programming and conditioning, what I call patterns, that are in conflict with the conscious mind. So somebody can say, I want to lose weight, I want to be sexy, I want to do this, I want to make money, but the unconscious has beliefs or rules or patterns or programs or conditioning that doesn't align with the conscious mind. And so, as I think I said last week, a good friend of mine, God rest his soul, Brian Clemmer, wrote a book, If How-Tos Were Enough, everybody would be rich, everybody would be skinny, and everybody would be happy. And the reason why this doesn't work, and he writes it in his book, Brian Clemmer, is that the unconscious is running the show, right? So you have to train your mind to be congruent. You have to train your mind to align with what you say you want. And it does not happen overnight. Some people think, oh, if I take a pill or drink this potion or take this course, it's going to happen overnight. No. It does take time. It takes time to condition your unconscious mind. And most of all, it takes time to change your mind about your identity. So what we're going to talk about today is categories of improvement. Now, this I learned from Anthony Robbins many years ago in his program called RPM. And I have to tell you, and I'm not here to boast, but I've been marinating my mind in this program for probably a decade and a half, 15 years, maybe close to going on 20 years. So I bought the program when they actually delivered CDs to you, and you had a manual and a book, and it was called the RPM program, which was based on NLP, this concept that you start with the end in mind and you chunk down to the specifics. And I remember when I first took the program and rehearsed the program and learned the program, it was good, but I didn't get it. I didn't get it. It took me time over and over again to hear it and to listen to it, that eventually it went from just cognitive knowledge to emotional knowledge where I got it in my cells. But now it's a part of me. I've been literally talking about this, thinking about this, teaching it to other people for close to 20 years. And the difference is most people say, what do I have to do today? What do I have to do? Okay, I got to do the laundry, got to go to the post office, got to balance my checking account, got to pay my credit cards, got to pick up the kids, got to go grocery shopping, got to make some sales calls. So this is where most people start their planning when it comes to their life for New Year's Eve resolutions, right? It's I got to go to the gym today, right? And you go, well, no, something else is coming up. I'm not going to go to the gym. We've all been there. But when you look at the RPM program, and if you like what you're hearing here, I almost wish he had a franchise and he would sell it to me because I love this philosophy. You're not starting with to-do list goals, I got to do this and I got to do that, because there's no end to it, right? You could make a list for the last week of January and it could have 10 things on it, and by the end of the day it'll have 100 things on it. It'll grow, right? It will reproduce. There's no end to managing your life with action steps or with checking things off. You went to the laundry and you went to the post office and you did this and that. That's a good way to run your life, but there's a better way. And the better way to run your life, according to Tony, and I think this is true as well, is by categories. He calls them categories of improvement. What most people do is they major in the minor things of life. They know more about a celebrity than they do about their weight or their health or things that truly, truly, truly matter, right? And so what he's talking about is focusing on categories in your life that are important and that you must improve daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. You must, because if you don't improve them, they're going to go downhill. They're definitely going to go downhill. So my sister just moved recently. I'm not going to get into the details, but she got the house of her dreams, and she's living in it, and she just moved not too long ago. She has another house here in Connecticut, but she wanted to move to a place that was closer to family and also a bigger house. So this is what she did. When she moved from one house to the other, she put things in boxes, right? We all do this, other than the furniture. And she had 1 box or 2 boxes or 3 or 10 boxes for the kitchen. She had some for the living room, some for the bathroom, some for the bedroom, some for the spare bedroom, some for the attic, some for the basement, right? So she's moving. She just moved about a week ago. And I remember stopping by to say hi to her, and, I'm seeing these boxes in the hallway, and I'm like, hey, I can give you a hand. What do you got? What do you got? And she said, oh, bring some of those boxes in that say kitchen on it. And I say, okay, no problem. I'll do that. So you wouldn't pack up your life and put in boxes your silverware for kitchen and also your underwear. Doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense. You wouldn't pack up a box that said kitchen and you put toiletries in there. It doesn't make any sense, right? Because that's a box that you would use for a bathroom. So when you move, or when she's moving, or she's moving in and unpacking as I tape this, she has these different boxes for different areas in her room, so that when she wants to put things in its proper place, she's going to that box. She's going to that box, and when she finds that box, she's going to take the contents out of it, and she's going to set it up. So in the same way, there's certain categories of our life that we cannot ignore, right? One of them is health. One of them is your physical body. This applies to every person on the planet, right, that is alive. That's the condition. You got to be alive, right? Your health, your physics, your life, your physical body, that's a category. And it's probably one of the most important categories. If you had $1 million or $10 million or $100,000, you had all this money, success, right? And you couldn't get out of your chair because you were overweight or you had heart problems or disease or, and, people who struggle with this, my heart goes out to them. All of these other things don't mean a lot if you don't have your health, right? They always say that the person that is healthy, they might have 100 goals this year or 50 goals this year. The person that's sick, the person that's dying, right, because they didn't take care of themselves, they only have one. They have one goal. That's it. It's getting better, right? So if that's true, which I think it is, health has to be a category. And I have to admit, for the last decade or so, I haven't focused on it that much. Now, I've focused on it here and there. I've dabbled with it, but I thought, now I'm in my 60s. I'm thinking, okay, things are going really well in my life, but need to focus on the weight, need to focus on being healthy. So that's a category, right, that you cannot ignore. And if you ignore it, don't think about it, there are going to be consequences. Because what's the difference? Somebody comes up to you and says, listen, I got some news for you. We should have had this conversation 5 years ago, but I'm going to have it with you now. You got some major problems, right? So physical category of health is one that's important. The other one is financial, right? Whether you're 20, 50, 80, 70, doesn't matter. You have to think about your finances. Now, some people's standard is they just want to get by and pay their bills. Other people that want to have more money, I get it. There's different standards. There's different programming around money. But what I'm saying here, what I'm sharing here, is that money has to be a category of improvement unless you're going to be, homeless and you're not really going to take care of this area of your life. Financial health is important. I would say physical health is probably even more important, but both of these things are important. And what I love about physical health and what I love about financial health is they have to do with numbers. They have to do with numbers. You don't sit down with your accountant and he goes, well, how was your year this year, 2024? And you go, well, I think it was good. Well, let's look at the numbers. Well, I didn't really keep numbers. I don't have numbers. Well, what about your bank account? Oh, I haven't looked at it. What about your credit card? I haven't looked at it. That's like a person that doesn't look at their health, their blood pressure, their weight. They don't look at the numbers. They don't look at the cholesterol. They don't look at anything. They don't care. They don't track anything. So what I love about the health and what I love about the financial is that it really comes down to a number, because the number is going to tell you the story, right? It's the same thing in sales. I've been in sales for years. I've been in sales training for years, and I used to say to people, all right, you're struggling. I get it. Do me a favor. Take a pen or a pencil and draw a box by, the size of an inch by an inch, right? And today is Saturday, January 11th, 2025. I want you to write down in the box exactly how many people you talked to today about your product or your opportunity or your business, new prospects, right? And I did this for years when I was doing sales training and direct sales, and I will tell you the average person did not have a number, or it was 0, or it was 1. Now, I had one smarty pants say to me, I spoke to 100 people today, and he was just kind of showing off. It all comes down to the numbers. If you're in sales, it comes down to the numbers. It is a numbers game. When it comes down to health, it is also a game of numbers. And when it comes down to finances, it's also all about numbers as well. So speaking of numbers, we're going to take a 35-second commercial.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. Do you wish you could sharpen your focus on what matters most to you and achieve more? Then you owe it to yourself to read Greg's ebook at gregdwyerebook.com. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com. Download it today and give it away. As always, we want to thank you for listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio with motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Now back to our show. Take it away, Greg.
Okay, that is a little commercial about my ebook that I wrote. It's gregdwyerebook.com. Don't even ask you for your email. Not at all. Not at all. It is a evergreen book that I wrote, which is not necessarily about me. It is about you. and it is about narrowing your focus, getting clear on what you really want in life, figuring out what's important, and going for it. So just go to www.gregdwyerebook.com and download it and read it and give me some feedback. I'd love to hear from you. So I have something else for you, and that is a quiz. These are pass-fail quiz, but they're based on numbers. If you go to www.gregdwyer.com, there is a focus quiz right below the fold. You can't miss it. There's like 3 or 4 buttons on the first page, and it says take the quiz now. It'll take you less than 5 minutes. It'll probably take you 2 minutes. And you'll get your results, and you'll see how focused you are. So I challenge you, go to gregdwyer.com and do that. All right, we're talking about the new year. We're talking about categories, why people fail. I know why they fail. Conscious mind is easily distracted, and the unconscious mind is stuck. It's stuck. It's stuck in its patterns, which are programming and conditioning, and that has to change, or at least there has to be alignment. So the first step is to figure out where you are. Okay, so we're looking at the health. We're looking at the finances. We also have to look at relationships. They say that people that live long have meaningful relationships. I'm looking to change my diet, so I looked at this book the other day, which I picked up, which is the Mediterranean Diet. It talked about food, talked about portion size, it talked about lifestyle. But what surprised me about the Mediterranean Diet is it talked about relationships. It said people in the Mediterranean, Greece, and other places in the world, they live not to eat, they eat to live. And they don't work to live, right? Or they don't live to work, I should say. They simply enjoy their life. And I remember this as my grandparents were Italian, Life was about family. Life was about connection. Life was about relationships, right? It wasn't about work, right? I just saw a video the other day about this guy that talked about the fact that he was obsessed. He's in his 80s or 90s. He was obsessed his whole life with working, and if he had to go back and do it differently, he would have enjoyed his life. He would have spent more time with his family and friends and just simply enjoyed himself. So, relationships, that's really important. So how are you doing on that category? That's another one. So we're looking at finances, we're looking at health, we're looking at relationships. Emotions, where do you live emotionally? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? Are you joyful? Are you grateful? So the way we do this, and this is not new, I learned this from Anthony Robbins, and I've seen it other places, is you would simply draw a circle on a piece of paper, and you would divide the circle up like a pizza pie. And the center, or the hub of the wheel, if we're thinking of a wheel, is 0, and the hub on the outside, or the crust of the pizza, is number 10. So you have these different slices. Maybe you have 4 slices if you're just looking at 4 categories of your life, or you have 6 or 8. The idea is you rate yourself subjectively on where you think you are today. So when it comes to your health, you ask yourself questions like, what do I weigh? Am I healthy? Have I been to a doctor? Financial, where I am is my debt, my savings, my investments. How do I handle money? My relationships, my lifestyle, my emotions. You pick categories that are really important, that are meaningful to you, right? And, this is something you grow into. It's not like you have to do it just once and, you're going to leave it there permanently. You might change this or look at it every 6 months or every year. When I started this program with Tony Robbins, RPM, I did this for over a decade, 15 years. Every year I would sit down, draw the pie, and look at the balance of my life. Where am I in my relationships? Where am I in my emotions and finances and health? So that's the personal side of the equation. That's the personal categories. And then, if you're like me, you're still working. You're still contributing to society, whatever that might be, your career, your mission, your calling. And so you draw another circle, and you divide that into different categories as well. Maybe you're running a sales division. Maybe you work for yourself, so you have to communicate socially with media. That's social media exposure. Maybe it's email marketing. Maybe it's phone calls. I don't know. I don't know your business. I do know mine. I do a lot of speaking, so performing and speaking is a category. Sales is a category. Social media is a category. making phone calls, responding to people, follow up, that's a category. So many different categories when it comes to business, but you want to make it really simple. You want to really make it simple, and you want to rate yourself. Are you a 0? Are you a 5? Are you a 10? Is there room for improvement? And then you want to shade in the area of the category. Like if you're a 6 on health, you would shade it all in up to 6. Or if you were a 9 in finances, you would shade it in all the way up to 9 on finances. Now, what does this do? It gives you a snapshot of your life. Now, it is subjective. Someone else might look at it and say, are you kidding me? You're great in relationships. How come you only rated yourself as a 3? So again, it's subjective, but it kind of gets you to start somewhere. And then if you're low on certain areas like health or finances, or you're low on, I don't know, maybe career satisfaction, then you say to yourself, this is a category I want to really focus on. I had a client a couple of years ago, they said, I want to focus on family. I said, go for it. Spend 2023 focusing on family. And then I had another client say to me, well, this is my year. This is the year that I'm going to focus on finances. So that's the major issue. So once you look at these categories, and once you come to the realization that you must focus on categories rather than to-do lists, right? Because to-do lists, there's just too many of them. And a lot of them you don't have to do. You can get leverage and you can have other people do them, except for when it comes to your health, right? Unless you hire a coach who tells you to get up and run and drink water and follow you around all day. But most of this you have to take 100% responsibility for, and it's not about running around making to-do lists and checking it off your day planner. That's not what this is about. It's about understanding that these major categories, maybe there's 5 in one area and 5 in your professional life, or there's 4 and 4. You say to yourself, I have to focus on these. I have to see, some kind of improvement in the next 12 months, right? Now, you probably heard this before, but it's worth repeating. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year. It's like, I got to get all this stuff done. I can tell you from personal experience, I'm in my early 60s, and one of the dreams I have is to write a book. But it's not necessarily on my agenda this year. It's on my agenda, and there's a certain cutoff date that I have in mind. But I want to see it happen in this decade, from my 60s and in my 70s. So most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in a decade. When you get really focused, and just the other day I was reading a book by Matthew Kelly, and I think the title is The Last Quarter of Your Life. He's talking about the winter of your life, your 60s to your 70s to your 80s, possibly your 90s. And he says, think about your life in the next 5 to 6 years. Think of your life in the next 7 to 11 years. Think of your life in the next 12 to 18 years. Think of your life in the next 19 to 25 years. And start mapping this out. Like, where do you want to be? It's like a job interview. Somebody comes up to you and says, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you're 30 years old, you have no clue, you make something up. But once you get, older, you start thinking, what do things really matter? Because not everything matters, right? Not everything matters. Only a few things that matter. Your health, your finances, your relationships, perhaps your mission in life. And you're looking for balance, but at the same time, you're looking for improvement. Because the only thing that's truly going to make you happy is progress. That's the thing that lights me up. That is the thing that lights me up. It's not what I buy or where I go or who I meet. It's the progress of looking back and saying, my goodness, I really have grown in the last year, or I've really grown in the last 5 years. And, I can't imagine, but I should imagine, use my imagination to predict what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years or 15 or 20 years. That's where the magic is. The magic is in the progression. The magic is in the growing. Because if you're stagnant, if you're just sitting there not growing, you're bored out of your mind, you're probably depressed and anxious, and you're thinking about yourself. But if you can start thinking about growing so that you can contribute more and give more and be of more service, that's really kind of exciting. Very, very exciting. So when you look at your categories, and we only have about 5 minutes left, let me say this, 4 minutes left, then you come up with goals in each category. So you look at your health. You go, okay, I got one great goal, want to lose 25 pounds this year, right? That could be a goal. And you look at your finances. You go, I want to invest this kind of money, or I want to get to this level of money, or I want to start a Roth, or I want to start a financial, I want to go see a financial planner. I'm going to start something here. But it's got to be a smart goal. It's got to be specific. You got to write it down, and you got to be able to share it with somebody else where they can actually look at it and say, hey, did you actually hit this goal this year? Because if you say something loosey-goosey like, I just want to be happy, or I want to have better relationships, I don't know what that means. I mean, when it comes to relationships, somebody could say, I want to be married by the end of this year. And you're like, happily married. See, yeah, that's a little subjective. But nevertheless, you can measure it. You can say, okay, well, at least you got married, right? And happiness comes and goes. But what I'm speaking about is living on purpose rather than running around trying to check off to-do lists, which will drive you crazy and at the same time will probably not bring true fulfillment in your life. If you only have to manage 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 areas in your life, in your personal life, and a few in your professional life, it makes it a lot easier and you can track the progress. So in each category, you come up with one major goal, and maybe you'll have, maybe you'll have 10 goals for 2025. You might not hit them all. You might not achieve them. I looked at my goals for last year. I achieved most of them. But there are a couple, that I just didn't hit, and you don't beat yourself up about it. You just say, well, I wonder what my unconscious was doing there, so that, my conscious mind was saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but my unconscious did not cooperate with. And then you make adjustments. No such thing as failure, right? And you just make adjustments, and you move towards what you want in the next year. And that's the progress. And if you have, 10 years to get this done, and of course, when we're talking about something like your weight or your health, you're never done with that. You're never done with that. People who say, I'm going to go on this diet for 6 weeks or a year and I'm going to be done with it, or I'm going to eat really healthy for a while, but that's it, I don't think really get it. So I hope this helps. I hope that this has encouraged you. I would highly recommend you go to gregdwyerebook.com, download my ebook, and read it. And then also go to gregdwyer.com and take my Focus Challenge, my quiz. It's so easy to get distracted today, and the reason why is because the conscious mind is easily distracted. And the other thing that's in our way is our unconscious, which in many cases is pulling in the wrong direction. And the only way to align it is to use your imagination and to condition yourself to create different views about your beliefs, about yourself, and what you are capable of doing or what you're capable of doing. Okay, so I'm looking at the time. We have less than a minute left. I want to respect my time here, and we hope that we catch you next time. Stop distractions. Stop them. Stop distractions so that you can maximize your results. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. Check out Greg at gregdwyer.com. Be sure to download his ebook at gregdwyerebook.com to stay focused on what matters most to you. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com. We want to thank you for listening. Now go make a difference in your world.